Council, Jerry.
Oh, okay. I just had cataract surgery, so I'm not used to putting glasses on and I can see you wonderfully. Now I can't. Crazy. Anyway, this Township of Selwyn regular council meeting of Tuesday, February the 11th, 2025 will come to order. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. Please observe a moment of silence so that council, staff, and members of the public can quietly reflect on our duty to our community that we are trying to serve. Thank you. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof for this meeting today? Seeing none, please note it in the minutes. We have our minutes of January the 14th, 2025 in front of us. Everybody's had a chance to look at them. Any errors or omissions? See if there is none. Can I have someone move them? Moved by Councillor Henry, seconded by Councillor Boyko. All in favor? Harry, thank you. Any discussion of the minutes? Seeing none, we will go to our first deputation. We are welcoming Kate Ramsey and Sandra Peacock today. If you can go to the mic there.
Good afternoon, Mayor Senes and Deputy Mayor Black and members of council. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk to you a little about the community table, which is a new initiative dealing with a pretty chronic problem. I think that we all recognize how serious the issue of food insecurity is in all our communities. It is something of a hidden one in our rural municipalities, and I think that some of you will have been discussing that recently at the Ontario Rural Municipalities Conference. Lakefield United Church is collaborating with a number of community partners in looking for ways to address this, and I'm not quite sure how to make the, there we go.
You're there.
There we go. Not a techie. You will all know, I think, how closely food insecurity is related to physical health and mental health. We're aware of, I would say, three kinds of hunger. So there's that kind of hunger that Sandy Peacock can tell you lots about because she has been helping to drive the food bank in Lakefield for quite a number of years. There's a hunger for connection as well. There is a massive epidemic of isolation and loneliness amongst, surprisingly, our young people who are connected to their iPhones, but not to one another, and amongst seniors, of whom we have so many in this township. There's also a hunger that I observe, maybe it's an appetite to deliver on community improvement. And I know that's mostly your job, but I mean that appetite that people have perhaps now more than ever because of all the things that are going on in the wider world, opportunity to make a difference in our small corners. And that hunger or appetite may be part of the solution to the first two. Lakefield United was looking for ways to deliver on community needs and was aware that food insecurity was a very high need in the community. And so we reached out to other agencies. There we go. who were serving the community to say, if we were to deliver a community meal program, would that be helpful? Would it be something you're already doing? Would it be additive? And that meeting, including these several agencies, Youth Unlimited, Lovesick Lake, Native Women's Association, Community Care, the Food Bank, just vigorously endorsed the idea of doing this, that this would be additive to all the work that they are doing. And you can see from the numbers on the slide just how many individuals each of those agencies is serving. Those are separate and sometimes overlapping constituencies. What a meal program will do is help to connect some of those families and individuals served with services that are in the community. This is not a soup kitchen, or it's a community meal where all are welcome, so that if I were somebody who might be sleeping in a car, I'd be sharing the table, ideally with you, Mayor Senes or Councillor Boyko, who would be welcome at that table. And it's an opportunity for somebody from community care to be a face who's present in that room, being able to connect with folks who need those services, what's available in our township and community. It's also a way for people to connect at an individual level. If I just got my hip replaced and I can't shovel my walk, and there's a 16-year-old that Chris Jones is looking after in Youth Unlimited that couldn't afford the shovel, but boy, could he use the $12. At the table is where those people will connect. The crisis I've talked about, the partners I've talked about, this is to be a volunteer-driven thing. It's hosted at Lakefield United because it's always seen itself as a community hub. It's a large facility. We are regularly inspected by public health. We've got quite a lot of people with their food handlers, safety certifications and all those things. We've got a lift. But we couldn't do this by ourselves. We're doing it in partnerships with these other organizations and with individuals who we're pretty confident are going to step up to help us do this. And we intend to do this monthly at first. That seems deliverable. Hope that it will become more frequent. Hope that we can add other things to it. The meals are intended to be nutritious ones. It won't be, spaghetti slop. It'll be the whole dignified thing, with a view to people being able to connect before and after, with the intent of adding on educational pieces, so preserving food, purchasing food effectively, all those kinds of things. And we have had lots of support step up. Lakefield College, which I know is outside the township, but only barely. They have said that they'll provide us with some of the farm produce that would otherwise have been going to the Nourish program, which you may know winds up next month. Lakefield United is going to be an initial sponsor at $1,600. That will help us get through what we imagine would be about 100 people a time. The first 3 times we have a capacity for 140. We're trying to just throw our arms around. We're pretty sure we can do. So we're coming to council both to let you know that we're doing this, to ask for your support, endorsing the problem, supporting the solution. We will come forward and seek some funding through the community grants channel that's there, but we would also really welcome any support that council might see its way clear to, thank you, to provide either through funding sources beyond that council may have access to in partnership with us. This is a problem that is province-wide. We're in the middle of an election. There may be sources of funding that come forward in the future. As we go to others in the community and seek their partnership and support, the recognition and endorsement from Selwyn Council will be really valuable in taking this forward. I think I've covered what I hope to say, Sandy, and so we would welcome your questions and try to answer them. Sandy's much smarter and more experienced than me, which is why she's here.
Well, thank you, ladies, both of you, for bringing this forward. It's a very interesting concept, and I hope that it grows with success. Are you aware that there is at the Bridge North United Church a food bank as well, and they average feeding 60 to 70 families a week? Are you aware of that?
We are, and this is
Wasn't
not
on your list.
we didn't bring in the Bridge North group. This was just a sort of initial meeting to see if we were on the right page, or if we'd be told that, you know, Chris Jones was already doing this and somebody else was already doing this. So yes, we certainly will reach out to beyond the boundaries of Lakefield for supporters and deliverers. But it's not a food bank; it's a community
Yes.
meal program.
I
Yeah,
understand
and I
that,
think
but there are
Sandy's
people who
well
use-
acquainted with what goes on at Bridge North. And
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
very
there are
good.
people who use the food bank that I'm sure would be interested too, and
For
if they
sure.
could make their way to Lakeville
Yeah,
to take part as well.
yeah. This is not a village initiative. It's
Okay.
just housed there.
Okay, yeah, thanks for clarifying that. All right, I'll open it to questions. Councillor Boyko?
More than a question, I guess I have a statement. And one of the things that we learned at the recent Roma conference, and I think you referenced it, is that on a per capita basis, the food insecurity and homelessness are greater in rural and small municipalities than in the major cities. And the difference is that we simply don't see it. In Peterborough, it's easy to see. In Toronto and Ottawa, it's easy to see. But we can't see a person who is sleeping in a wooded area, or is sleeping in their car, or we can't see the person that is couch surfing and is homeless. And with homelessness comes the food insecurity, and with connected to that, and I think you made this connection well, the mental health issues, the isolation. So going to my question, and then through you, Mayor Sennis, I have a comment I'd like to make, is the marketing. How would the people who need and would benefit from this hear about it? And if they are isolated, how would they get there?
The transport issue, your second question, Councillor Boyko, is something that we'll have to respond to as the need is presented to us. The agencies who came to that initial meeting have all said that they would use their networks to promote this. We would do so at Lakefield United. We would engage the Bridge North Food Bank, and whatever community networks are available. But the response was certainly very enthusiastic that they would use those networks. We will need, I think, to figure out a phone-in, email, some way to judge, because the worst thing would be to be so successful that we have 180 people and we're not able to meet all those
Right.
needs. But we've also been in touch with some other groups that are doing similar programs in other communities, and so we'll get
Right.
that ironed out.
Right. When anything like this happens, the big fear is that 10 people show up or 1,000 people show up.
Yes, exactly, exactly. But we're not the first to do this.
Right, exactly. I think I share with all of council and staff the great respect that we have for all of the work that's being done by Community Care and the Lovesick Lake Native Women's Association, Youth Unlimited, and the Lakefield Food Bank, and their involvement in this brings credibility to this, and their marketing ability to reach out to people that they're serving. And of course, there's overlap in the people that they are serving. I go to your page that talks about ask for endorsement, and it says the Lakefield United Church is putting in $1,600. Other is $2,000. I would like to add an amendment to the recommended motion. I could read the recommend motion if you wish, but all I would do is after the final sentence or final line where it says contributions in the community to secure funding for the initiative, I would add, and I move this as an amendment to the motion, and to offer $2,000 seed money to help initiate the program. And there's the other 2,000 that you would have that would immediately enable you to make this happen. Rather than having to fundraise that $2,000, it is difficult to fundraise an idea. If you had the $2,000 of seed money, then you would be fundraising for an existing, and I have no doubt, thriving program. I would hate for you to need to go to the community for that $2,000 seed money when we know those 4 groups that I've just mentioned are also going to the community for help. And they certainly don't have the budget to throw in that 2,000. So therefore, my amendment after the word initiative at the end, and to offer $2,000 seed money to help initiate the program. And I hope I can get a seconder for that motion.
Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, through Mayor Sinis. I will second the motion so we can continue talking about that. My involvement with the health unit as the chair of the health unit and vice chair of forecast, and intimately aware of the homelessness, addictions, food insecurity, all of those things are all priorities in my life to work on. That's why I put my hand up to do those things. Council last year, I approached council last year during budget process about putting $10,000 aside from our normal CIP contribution for this exact type of purpose, this type of project that would be brought to council. We have an existing grants program, and it's a good program, and we have lots of people apply for it. And the money is used for very good reasons for all of these organizations, but it's mostly to support existing programs. It really doesn't provide enough money as a seed type of funding to allow a new program to get going. And as Councillor Boyko says, I'm fully aware that it's hard to sell a vision or something like that. Once it's up and running, people see success, they will donate. If you build it, they will come. That was a movie. So I also think it's important that the program gets off to a good start. And so I support the motion of staff coming back to council with where there might be an opportunity to find those dollars within the budget. It truly is a program that really supports the most vulnerable people in our community. And again, working through the health unit and forecast, I see those folks every day, and they're in desperate need of help in many cases. It doesn't only support food insecurity, it also supports the isolation issue that you've talked about, and the transportation issue is going to be key to making sure that doesn't happen. So again, that falls in some of the areas that I work on with the Abbeyfield House, not-for-profit senior housing project. That's based on an isolation metric that is key for particularly seniors living alone. So this pushes all the buttons for this, ticks all the boxes for everything that I support. So I will support a motion, the amended motion that Councillor Boyko's put forward.
I'm going to go to the rest of council. I just want to make a comment. We dealt with our budget last Thursday. And I find it a little ironic that the 2 gentlemen that are wanting to put forward $2,000 that are not in this new budget, we're asking staff to find an additional $130,000 to reduce the rate. So it seems to me like there's a little bit of mixed messaging here. However, now I will go to Councillor Koulis.
Perhaps since we were just referenced, I could answer that.
No, we're going to Councillor Koulis first,
Okay,
please.
I will respond then in time. I hope I get a
Thank
chance.
you.
Hi, so first off, for you, thanks for coming. And I'm a foodie too. I love all your punny stuff at the beginning. I use that in a lot of my stuff about food. So thank you for that. It's very refreshing in this circumstance. So to kind of start, I want to, like at the high level, This is tied closely to a church. So I'm worried that if we support in any financial way directly, that there's like, we have to separate church and state here.
Mhm.
Is that an issue from an administrative point of view?
Pardon me, we do fund programs that would have been delivered by a church, I guess, for lack of a better word. I will just say that the group is aware of our municipal grant program, so they do have access to that. And I think it was their intention to apply for a municipal grant. They would be eligible under the program.
Yeah, I'm just worried about after the budget. That was my first question, is if we could do this. The second one was if we could afford it. And so I think I'm just going to leave it there. And I'll hear from others.
Councillor Henry.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Senes. Thank you for your presentation. Being a chef and someone that's worked with food in a number of countries, and some of those places were working in nursing homes and different facilities, very well of food insecurity, as well as working in emergency services in Northern Ontario with our Indigenous communities there that have been evacuated for a number of reasons. Food security is very real. Having recently operated a business for the last several years in Lakefield that is food-based, there was a number of individuals who were able to come in and shop at my business, and there weren't any fees involved. There was a couple of code words that have been set up with some of the organizations that you're working with for the people that were living in their cars, and for the members of our resident area that are sleeping out in tents or wherever it may be. So definitely to understand the need for it. Echoing my colleague, Councillor Koulis's words of, I'm not concerned that there's a church involved, but you can't throw a stone in Lakefield without hitting a church. And I don't think that disrespectfully, but we have our fair share of them. And beyond Lakefield, we do have Bridge North, as Mayor Senes referred to the food bank that we do have in Bridge North. Totally out of touch with Ennismore. There might be food bank needs there as well. So we could be in a position here where we need to end up funding a number of programs. Whereas I think it would be in benefit to you to reach out to the church in Bridge North and team up, as it would give you greater strength, greater numbers, especially when applying for grants. And I'm going to have to side with Mayor Senes here as to, after last week's budget discussions, I don't think we need to go shopping. We've already gone through $2.5 million of our reserves since 2021. And I don't think we come out of the gates right off the bat spending money. So by all means, do support it. Yes, it is needed. I'm pretty certain township staff will work with you and direct you as to where grants are available. I know they've been great with some of the other organizations that are looking for monies and such. And the church itself, congratulations, you've come up with $1,600 of seed money already.
We do intend to partner with other churches in the community and beyond if they're willing, and anticipate that some of our service clubs would also step in and take some ownership of this. We're the place, and sponsoring it in that way, getting it going.
Kate, before I go to Councillor Boyk, do you have a mechanism for people donating money to receive a tax receipt, or?
That is the place where I think the church might become involved, because we have a reserve fund for community outreach, and I think a designated fund. And I've spoken with the Community Foundation of Greater Peterborough, where I'm pretty well acquainted with the staff, and they would have the same. Is it a church? And they certainly have a history of being able to navigate that for specific projects, which are clearly community-based.
Okay, so if I
Not
want to make a personal
denomination-based.
donation, I would make it to the church and stipulate that the money would go to the
To
community
that
food table?
fund, yeah, to the
Okay,
community table.
all right,
yeah.
thank you. Make that clear in your marketing.
It may not be clear in our marketing, but we will make it clear.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Boyko.
Thank you. In response, because my comments were directly referenced, our budget is approximately $22 million. And a number of things in that budget and the community improvement plan, for example, we're putting $75,000 into a fund where the reserve is already 300,000 for community improvement. And the way we have defined community improvement with that 75,000 is if people want to build a better sign or if they want to improve the look of their building. I think it wouldn't take much to redefine slightly community improvement so that $2,000 out of that $75,000 that is in our budget could be allocated to a project worthy of this. Or should we say, I'm sorry, our budget was made last Thursday. You showed up 4 days too late. If you'd have shown up last week, we would have considered that. You're too late by 4 days. So therefore, I would again reiterate that I believe adding $2,000, spending $2,000 out of our 22 million, out of our 75,000 for community improvement is a good use of our money to meet the needs of people who need it more now than ever.
I have Angela Chittick, please.
Yeah. I just want to be clear, the use of the CIP, I don't think you would be able to use the 2,000 from the actual CIP reserve. If council wanted to fund the $2,000, it would just need to come from another location. But that specific reserve is set aside under the bylaw for the financial incentive program. I'm not saying you can't fund it. It's just that you would be able to fund it specifically through that reserve, just to be clear.
And to be clear, I was using that as an example. I wasn't saying pull it out of the reserve. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Blunt.
Yeah, thanks, Sue, Mayor. Yeah, I want to respond to that comment around the budget. I think it's a little disingenuous. Staff was able to find $235,000 to make P60 work for our staff for salary increases, and to say we can't. And that was supposed to be found from savings within departments. And if we can't find another $2,000, I think that's a problem. I didn't really appreciate the comment.
Yes.
If I can just clarify on that one,
Yes.
when that decision was made, we did the market review around staff wages and salaries, and there were adjustments
questioning
made. No, but I do need to respond to your remark because it's not 100% correct. So when that compensation review was brought forward and council approved moving forward with the recommendations, the effective date was October 1st of 2024. So the amount that would be incurred in 2024 indeed was to be drawn from accumulated revenue that had been resulted through the operations of the year and other savings. In 2025 and moving forward, it would be part of the tax budget to fund wages and salaries for our operations. And as everybody knows, we are a service industry, so that is a very significant component of our budget.
Although if I could
Deputy Mayor Blunt.
respond through you, Mayor, again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, the number I was given from Lane was the additional cost in the budget this year, which I think was $235,000 on top of that, $130,000 our normal cost of living and band changes for individuals. So yeah, that's the number. We were able to find that this year through taxation.
Yeah, I'm not arguing the number. I just wanted to clarify that there was never direction that in 2025 that would come out of savings within the department.
Still
The
there.
operations.
Still there.
Councillor Henry.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sands. I'm not sure, but I think I might need to call point of order here. We have a couple of people here. I understand that this conversation started based upon them looking at our support and such. I think we have some wounds that we're rubbing salt in, possibly from last week. I think we're a little. I would like to support the motion as recommended from Township because I think that we have some other issues here that are surfacing that are impacting our thinking and our decision making right now. And I think that the way that we're speaking about it, we're not doing anybody any favors right now, especially our two guests that came in to present to us.
So we have a motion on the table that is to proceed with the recommendation adding an additional $2,000 to be given as seed money. Moved and seconded, and I will call the vote on that now, please. All those in favor? That is lost. We will go to the original recommendation that is before us. I need someone to move it, second it. Moved by Councillor Koulis, seconded by Councillor Boyko. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. We fully endorse you. I will be sending you some money personally. I wish you all the success in the world.
Thank you very much. And
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll be in touch with Councillor Henry for his advice on menus. We may be in touch with Councillor Boyko and his guitar, and we will welcome you, Mayor Senes, anytime.
Thank
All of
you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for all you do. All right, we'll move on to our next delegation, which is Peter Simcisco, Watson and Associates. Are they on the line? Peter, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me once again. I'm just going to share my screen if that's okay with the presentation. And if you could just let me know if we're live on the screen, please.
Muted.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the confirmation. So just to provide a little bit of background and context, as council might recall, the township approved new development charge bylaws back in August of 2023. Since that time, the Development Charges Act has been amended, and there has also been some implementation issues that have come up around how park model trailers are dealt with within the current development charge bylaws. And so the purpose of this brief presentation today is to provide an overview of the changes, as well as the resultant amendments to the township's development charge bylaws that are being proposed in response to those items. So firstly, in terms of that legislative background, back in June of 2024, Bill 185, or the Cutting Red Tape to Build More Homes Act, came into effect. That piece of legislation made several changes to the Development Charges Act, which included the removal of a mandatory phase-in period for new development charge bylaws, as well as reinstatement of growth-related studies as an eligible capital cost for the inclusion in the calculation of a development charge. And then also there was a technical change reducing the time limit on a development charge freeze period from what used to be 2 years down to 18 months. And so the first two items that you see listed here were already addressed last year, with the phase-in being removed, as well as the studies being added back into the township's development charge bylaws via amending bylaws that were passed late last year. And with the update study that's currently in front of council, we are addressing the third, I would say, more technical item, which is a reduction of that development charge freeze period from 2 years to 18 months. The other item that the update study seeks to address is the treatment of park model trailers when it comes to applying development charges. So the way that different types of development are defined within the township's existing development charge bylaws, park model trailers would fall under the category of single and semi-detached dwellings and would be charged the same development charge rates as would apply to typical single detached homes. However, based on our discussions with township staff, what's come to light is that these types of units would benefit from a separate definition and a separate treatment in light of the fact that park model trailers would be expected to have a lower number of occupants on average than a full-size single detached home. And so that gives rise to the proposed amendments to the development charge bylaws, which would involve including a definition for park model trailers within each of those bylaws, then further clarifying how those units would be treated from a development charge standpoint, so specifying that those units This park model trailers would be charged the rates applicable to apartment units of 1 bedrooms or less. And then there are also some technical changes in other areas of the bylaws that would be required to specifically account for this new category of development effectively that's being defined in the bylaws as amended. So to further inform this analysis, on slide 4, we have a selection of municipal comparators looking at how other municipalities treat park model trailers for the purposes of imposing development charges. As you'll see in the table here, there's some range or variety in how municipalities treat these units, but it is common for municipalities to treat them more like apartment units. When we look at Bracebridge and Gravenhurst, those municipalities treat park model trailers generally as if they were apartments of 2 bedrooms or more. When we look at Autonomy South Monaghan, we see that they treat them as other multiples. And then when we look at the last 3 municipalities included in the comparison, Prince Edward County, Rideau Lakes, and Trent Lakes, they treat park model trailers same as bachelor and 1 bedroom apartment units. And so that's kind of in alignment with that. What is being proposed as part of this amendment is to clarify that within the context of the township's development charge bylaws, park model trailers would be treated as bachelor and 1 bedroom apartment units. In terms of the definition that's proposed to be added to the township's development charge bylaws to enable these changes, that's shown on slide 5 here. And that definition was informed by a review of other municipal development charge bylaws, which define these types of units, as well as discussions with the township's staff. In terms of the next steps within this process, I'm here happy to answer any questions that council might have. We would be looking to publish the development charge update study, which is part of your agenda package on the municipal website by tomorrow. We would then be looking to undertake a public meeting, which is a requirement of the Development Charges Act prior to council considering approval of either a new development charge bylaw or an amending development charge bylaw. And we're looking to hold that statutory public meeting on March 25th. And then that would put council in a position to consider approval of the amending development charge bylaws on April 22nd. So that concludes the formal part of the presentation. And again, would be happy to take any questions that council might have.
All right, thank you, Peter. Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, through Mayor Senes. Thanks for the presentation. Just going back to the definition, when this issue kind of came up with the trailer park application, I understood the reason for the building permit is because they sat on a foundation of some sort. I don't see that in any of the description. It says they're on wheels, which most trailers of all description are on wheels. So what differentiates it other than maybe the size or something like that? But I understood it to be the need for a permanent foundation once it was installed.
So I don't think I can speak to the requirement for a foundation permit. It's certainly something I could follow up on unless staff are ready to answer that question. In terms of the justification for treating them differently than a single detached home, it does go back to the size. So recognizing that these units are much smaller than a typical single detached home, therefore would typically have a smaller or lower occupancy, and therefore place a lower demand on municipal services than do full-size single detached homes. That's the reasoning or justification for treating these as apartment units from a development charge standpoint.
Actually, Janice would like to.
Yes, so I can't answer your question directly. Robert's off sick today, but the park model trailers are dealt with separately in the building code, and there is a requirement for a building permit there. I'm not quite sure this reference to on wheels here. Robert did look at the definition, but we will go away and just make sure that we've got it right, and then we can let you know. But they are specifically dealt with in the building code and need the building permit.
Follow up, yeah, and that's what I understood. Because they needed the building permit, that means there was something structurally happening in the installation that required the permit. I don't see that in the definition.
Yeah. We'll make sure that's clarified.
Good catch. Any other questions? Seeing none, Councillor Henry?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Senes. Then should we amend the recommendation that we're going to wait for it to come back with clarification?
Angie?
I think we can go forward and get this publicized. We'll just make sure that the definition is correct. And then whatever's posted, it's correctly posted.
Okay, we'll count on, okay. All right, looking for someone to move that recommendation. Deputy Mayor Black, seconded by Councillor Henry, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you. Were there any questions brought forward for question period, Madam Clerk?
No questions.
All right. We have a report by Bryden Erdman with regards to our updated emergency management program bylaw. Brian.
Thank you. So the existing township emergency management bylaw, which includes our emergency response plan and business continuity plans, is over 5 years old now. In that time frame, there's been several changes organizationally here at the township amongst staff, as well as changes to the province's emergency management, incident management system framework, as well as the reporting structure of Emergency Management Ontario. This new bylaw and the revisions to the business continuity plan and the emergency response plan reflect the current staffing structure here at the township. And they also accurately reflect Emergency Management Ontario's reporting structure through the province now, as well as the revised incident management system framework, which is a lot more concise than the previous iteration of that with the province. So it's really just a modernization of our existing plan.
All right, are there any questions for Bryden? Councillor Henry.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Senes. Thanks for bringing this forward, Bryden, and addressing this. I personally enjoy emergency management, as I worked in Northern Ontario for over a decade with emergency services, with evacuations involving remote communities. One of the things that you learn is you always need a plan B and a plan C. And then D and E are always on the back burner just in case. Because it's a very fluid situation. It's always evolving. And I found that one of the challenges that we often encountered was simply understanding the chain of command. People will sometimes overstep boundaries or don't actually know how they're going to respond when it hits the fan. And when it does, sometimes the people that are in positions need to be shuffled around and such. And there's nothing like good intentions to make an emergency situation go very bad. Would there be any benefit to council, present, future, at least having basic IMS 100 and 200 training? It's free online. Like, our cost would be obviously their time to do it, but it would really help people know how this works. Obviously, IMS 300, 400, 500 would have to be, we're getting in some costs there, and typically present in a boardroom to train staff across the board, and only certain staff would get trained in those areas. But would there be benefit for us to be doing that?
Yeah, I think so, certainly. You just have to be cognizant of the way the current provincial emergency management framework is laid out. Presently, the way it is that the head of council and their designate have a formal designated role within the reporting structure. It's not to say that other members of council are not involved in emergency management. It's just that formal representation in emergency response plans or confidential appendices, et cetera. There's certainly benefit to everyone having IMS 100 and 200, but probably more specifically, I would suggest having basic emergency management. That side really gives more of a comprehensive overview of how municipal emergency control group would, strategize a response in response to an emergency within the jurisdictional boundaries of the township. So that program also is free. The cost to council would be just their own time to do it. Basic emergency management is a 2-day course. IMS is about 3 hours online, and then IMS 200 is about 3 days as well. I think they do a 2-day virtual as well now, but Yeah, if it's free and it's something that council would like to do, I would be happy to arrange it, but it's certainly, beneficial for at least your awareness. Or if you're brought into a very large scale emergency.
Follow up, thank you through Mayor Senes. Is there a way that it could be something that's structured through the portal for staff? Like we have to have our WMIS, so we know not to mix bleach with ammonia. This, I think I've been certified in that about 80 times now, depending on the workplace. Not that it's not beneficial. However, with this one, is there a way that we could set it up through the portal and we can see that, yes, the staff have done this or council has done it at least, and it become part of a mandatory thing that council present and future has to do?
Could you clarify on which portal specifically? It would be the staff training portal, perhaps? Janice?
Jan?
Yeah, I think that training is all managed through the OFM portal.
Yes, so
Yeah, so I'm
the,
not sure that we can connect the two. But certainly it could be something as part of a training program that would be on the list. It would just be delivered through a different format.
maybe to clarify, so the IMS and basic or BEM, basic emergency management training, it's done through the emergency management one portal. There's no way for the CMC or any other member of the municipality to arrange for training for another member. You have to proactively go on there and request your own credentials and log in. And then you'd provide that to us. We could look at a way to perhaps track that internally. We already track members for a municipal control group. But it wouldn't be something that we could set up on behalf of council, if that answers the question clearly.
It does answer the question. Thank you. I guess where I'm going is I'm trying to push that it becomes mandatory for council and at least 100, 200 being done for staff in general. Having worked in scenarios in a number of communities, there's nothing like a politician to show up in the middle of an emergency to screw it up and make it a lot worse. And the mismanagement of information, we saw a huge impacts, whether the evacuation was ending, when it was declared. There's so many layers to an evacuation when she gets working with the province, and with what I was doing, we even had the feds involved. So it was very complicated layers to it. I think it just helps people identify their place and their role. So I guess I'm bringing forward a motion that we need to do this. I don't know.
Ms. Witcher, Angie?
So I'm not sure that you want to make it mandatory. That would be the only thing. I'd just be cautious a little bit about that, but that's up to council. The other thing I'll mention, and Brian may not be aware because I don't think it's been offered in the last few years, EMO used to actually offer a council specific emergency management training day. Like it was a day. It was really good. It was exactly what you were speaking about. It was intended to kind of outline the purpose of your plan, how the community works together, decision-making, roles and responsibilities. So we can maybe take a look at whether that's still an opportunity available through AMO. Yeah, so we can ask about that as well. Yeah.
So Brian, do you want to put forward a motion that council or that staff research the possibility of having council take additional training for emergency management?
Through you, yes, Mayor Senes. The additional training I think would be beneficial on a number of levels, as well as if we are going to be having our discussions about a budget, how money will need to be set aside for our emergency management plan. Just having an understanding of how it works to the province coming out from EMO.
It's a good idea. So do you have wording for that for me now, Angie?
Yeah, so I think the gist of this is that staff bring back a report that researches training opportunities related to emergency management programs and training.
For staff and council.
Was it specifically for council? We do have, like, because we have staff identified in our control group and our plan, we do know that they're required to do certain training.
Naturally, yes, and obviously the players, the players involved, obviously OPP, Peterborough Police, Fire, whatever it may be, they've already kind of got an understanding of this.
Yep.
Definitely for council.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So you're willing to move that
Yes.
as worded, second? Councillor Kulis, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Now, we have a recommendation from Bryden.
Can I have a question before we go to
Oh,
the?
sorry. Yes,
That's okay.
Councillor.
Thank you.
Go.
Through you, I want to ask, and this question is really on two levels. And I'll preface it by reiterating something that Brian said, and when an emergency, sorry, Councillor Henry said, when there's an emergency, the last thing you need is one of us showing up saying, what you doing? That's the last thing you need. So given that, and I understand that, where is there in all of that you're proposing here, where council will at least be informed that something is happening that has risen to the level of an emergency? Not being asked to do anything, probably being told don't do anything, but at least being informed that something is happening.
Yeah, thanks for the question. It can come one of certain or several ways. Probably most organically would be through the notification of the municipal control group. So, you know, any member of the municipal control group that are identified staff, the head of council, Deputy Mayor Black, excuse me. So if there's an emergency activation of our ERP or our municipal operations center, and we're asking members of our municipal control group to convene here because of an emergency, that requires notification of all members of our municipal control group. I would assume that either the CAO, the mayor, or the deputy mayor will be reaching out to members of council to notify that this happens. There's nothing in the Emergency Management or Civil Protection Act or Ontario regulation that prescribes our training or our mandate that actually says you have to do that. But I would expect that would happen organically, just through normal chain of communication.
That's the assumption. Okay, good. So that leads to my next question, which doesn't go to you, but probably to Janice or Angie. And these are for events that don't reach that level of emergency, but there's still something of importance that is happening in the community. And I used two examples. I used an example that there was a murder in Lakefield last year. And I heard about it when somebody from across the road, when I was out for a walk, walking my little puppy, as a matter of fact, was told, hey, there's a murder in Lakefield. And I went, really? I had no idea. And they looked at me like, aren't you supposed to be the counselor? How come you don't know about this? And the other thing will happen just a couple of days ago when there was a water main break. And Councillor Henry happened to be in his place of business and called me and said, guess what? There's a water main break. I didn't know anything about it. And again, I'm not going to go down and tell the guys, you know, I think it would work out better if you dug over here. Of course not. But at least it would be kind of nice if there was some kind of communication that council was at least aware of what was happening. We're not going to do anything with that information, at least be aware. So I'm wondering if there's anything in just the standard operating procedure that doesn't come to your level of emergency about making council aware that something is happening in the township. I don't know who I'm asking. One of you.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe Ange wants to comment as well, but certainly when there is something significant, we do try and make sure that we do advise council. The water main break, sometimes they can be very significant in impact, and sometimes it's a water main break, but it's not as significant. So, you know, perhaps we missed that one. If it's something, we do have to be aware if it's something that's being managed by another organization, say the police are doing an investigation. We don't want to put our foot in it. We don't want to get in the way of that. So we are careful about kind of potentially interfering in that or sending a message that isn't what the responding agency would want us to send out. So we just do try and find that balance in terms of when we need to let council know that there's something bigger going on that they need to be aware of, and when it's actually our role and timing for us to do that as well, given what's going on. Anything to add?
So I can tell you, Councillor Boyko, that if there was a murder in our township and it was through the OPP's service, the detachment commander would call the mayor. And just to make me aware, however, they generally don't want me to pass it on because they haven't prepared their own statement And they want their statement to be the one that goes to the public, not information that might not necessarily be that they would want to share.
Okay, if I could respond to that, yeah, I understand that totally. But we're not the public. So I guess what I'm saying is that it would be nice if there was some kind of standard operating procedure that council could be made aware. That's all I'm asking, just made aware. And I use the murder and the as just examples of issues that happen that don't reach the level of the emergency that we're talking about. That's all I'm talking about. Thank you.
Angela.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you'll see, I often will send out council emails like as a heads up. Yeah, I don't know that we have a standard operating procedure just based on what we know that you think, or we think you should be aware of in case you get a phone call. We definitely will send out the communication. Yeah. So with the water main break, it was pretty localized. So quite honestly, I didn't think that everybody on council would want to know that. But so we're not going to get it right every time, but that is our practice to do that for sure.
But I hear what you're saying, because quite often people think we know everything.
It's
We don't.
it's quite embarrassing when you hear,
Yeah.
so what's going on with this? And I'm saying, I'm sorry, I'm hearing this for the first time.
Okay, so we have a recommendation before us to do with the report that we've received from Bryden. And did I get a mover and a seconder? No. Moved by Councillor Henry, seconded by Deputy Mayor Black. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Bryden. Is there anything that anyone wants pulled from consent? Councillor Boyka?
There's 5C correspondence. I think there's plenty of class and chassis.
5C.
Is it B? Okay.
5B.
Okay. So
No, it's number
6. Okay. Right.
6.
Right. 6, 8, 5 something.
Uh.
And then the other one is the county report on the official plan. And I just want to ask about other questions. But,
All right, anything anybody else wants to pull? Seeing nothing, we will approve the consent items that have not been pulled. So can I have a mover for those? Councillor Henry, Councillor Koulis, all in favor? That's carried. The first one, it was 6A, Class C chassis.
Yes, and through you, Mayor Sens, they are saying that they are going to have a number of events that are going to be happening. What type of events? What are we talking about? I'm not opposed to it. I'm just wondering what type of events are they talking about putting on? There's a number of dates throughout the year.
Sure. Sure. So of course, it's the motorcycle location right beside us. They do a lot of club rides. So they have riders come in, do like a meet. And then I have in the past, I think I answered this last year, and I think I used the Evel Knievel analogy, and I know that's not right, but they've had people do those kind of shows like jumps and things like that. I'm not a motorcycle person, so I don't remember all the terms, but.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so it's the same sort of thing that they've done in the past. Okay, excellent. Thank you.
And then Peterborough County report for the official plan.
Right. It's nice to see through you, Mayor Senes, and maybe this question goes to the two of you that are on county council, if there's anything you want to report on what is happening with the county official plan. But I guess my question is with the Selwyn official plan that has been sitting on a desk for a long time, is there any word at all?
So the Selwyn official plan is part of the county official plan and would be approved with the other 7 townships.
Right.
I can tell you that the warden and I attended to Minister Calandra's office in, can't remember even what month it was, December, November, with a couple of staff, Ian Mudd and Keziah Holden, to ask them to please allow us to move forward with our official plan, because they kept making changes, which made us have to change our official plan again. And they said that they wanted to make sure that there had been the ability for the Indigenous to make comment. And they felt that they wanted us to go through the process again to ensure that happened. And so most of the changes were technical to do with what the province had changed. So they made all the red line changes and it's now going to a public meeting. And once that's done, they're supposed to be working with the bureaucracy in Kingston to try and get the thing passed, because my worry was, I heard there was going to be an election. And we're having one. So they are trying to get this all done through staff. And I'm hoping that something comes back very soon after we end up with a public meeting. If there isn't a lot of comment, it can be sent in and hopefully signed off. Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, Mayor Sense. That was a very complete description of where we're going. I think the concern was the amount of time it would take to go through a full official plan review. And because the county agreed not to change any mapping or any settlement boundaries, that sort of thing, it was just notational changes from legislation to it. It's a shorter process from a public process. And hopefully, again, as the mayor says, with those public engagements, it can go back, but the changes based on the new legislation only and get approved much sooner than going through the full official plan process.
So we wait with bated breath. So
Thank you.
those two things, the Peterborough County report and the other one for Class C chassis. I need someone to move and second those. Moved by Councillor Boyko, seconded by Councillor Henry. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have a petition. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. We did receive a petition. It is included in the link. So you would have seen, I think there were about 13 or 14 folks that signed that. So the recommendation is on the cover page. Certainly Tanya, through her involvement with the Police Services Board, and Brian would be familiar with Gifford Drive. There's been a lot of work done in terms of getting reporting through the Black Cat and the Speed Awareness Board along Gifford. The road is posted as a 50-kilometer-per-hour roadway already. It was resurfaced in 2024, so it does have a good surface, and sometimes that does lend itself to speeding. But overall, the statistics do show that the majority of the folks driving along there are within kind of the safe range, I suppose. The OPP are aware of the concerns. They're monitoring the road, and the recommendation really is that we would continue to deploy the board and just continue some social media posts around how to report kind of aggressive driving, because in all likelihood, it's people in their neighborhood.
Yeah. Councillor Henry.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sennis. Councillor Koulis, don't you live on Gifford Drive?
I do, and it's ironic because I didn't hear about this petition until this agenda. The issues on Gifford that are noted in here are actually, like, I live by them every day. I see them. I can tell you which vehicles they are, so I can take some pictures of license plates if we really want to. But part of it too is a lot of these people, it's a built up area. We use the road. People don't slow down if you have a bike, if you have a dog, if you have a baby carriage. It's just people have to take it for themselves. So I really do support the public awareness piece of this. I'm just struggling with how to really get that message out there and drive it in, because not everybody wants to accept that message. So I think we need to think about that too. But yeah, and I'm at the north end I've got the stale colored Pepto-Bismol house, if you really want to know.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, through Mayor. It's a bit like Groundhog Day when we hear about speeding on Gifford. When I was council in the 90s, it was an issue when I was on as the public appointment through the early 2000s, and then when I came back on the board, it continues to be a problem. So, but you're right, the statistical, the Black Cat analysis stuff shows there are individuals that are speeding. For the most part, the residents are operating within safe speed zone. So obviously the answer is to catch those folks and try and deal with it that way. Just more a question with respect to, I know this is a petition, so it comes to council, but, and there is a new board. We don't have our local Smith Innismore Police Board anymore, where a lot of the traffic issues, speeding in particular, were brought to the local Smith Innismore Police Board. We have a new countywide police board. Has there been any discussion around how those sort of local issues are going to be dealt with? I know this one came to council because of the petition, but normally that would go to our local police board. We don't have a local police board anymore. We have a county police board. So I don't know if Councillor Henry can give us
Councillor Henry?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sanis. Very good questions, Deputy Mayor Black. The speeding is the number one concern for the OPP. It is one of the situations that is killing most of our citizens locally, if not harming them or maiming them. And that is their main concern. We did have black cats. Black cats were given to the OPP to utilize. December, they said, here you go, you get them back. So we'll be receiving the black cats back. There's going to be a training session for township staff so that we can utilize and redeploy them in the areas. I have spoken with Deputy Constable Galeazza about this back in December, actually, when this petition started, and they are patrolling as much as they can in areas. Snow, weather having some implications on it, but it has been addressed. They are aware of it, and moving forward, we as a community ourselves can be putting black cats out in the near future.
Thanks for that update. I've been a proponent in the past of the speed awareness signs, and I know the township has one and it's been mobilized. I saw it the other day. I can't remember what road I saw it on, but you know, the Gifford one is a chronic situation, and I'm just wondering whether council should consider down the road putting a permanent speed awareness sign on Gifford to help try and remind people to slow down. I think it's something you're seeing more consistently in Peterborough, including around the Memorial Center, all these speed bumps they have through all the winter. You know, is there an opportunity to look at some other opportunities to try and reduce speed? It's clearly certain individuals. It's not the majority, but yeah, that's my question is, are we considering any additional?
You then, Councillor Colas.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Sanis. Police Service Board definitely appreciate whatever actions we would take that would support their efforts and obviously make the roads safer. I would like to refer to Councillor Colas, though, as it is in her ward. Living in Smith Ward, the snowmobiles right now are being clocked at about 180 going down my road. And but it's much more rural. And I try to keep up on my four-wheeler.
They can go that. You can go that fast, Brian. Oh, wait, Lord.
Yeah.
Councillor Colas.
Through you, I'm gonna go to my first one because I'm gonna forget it if I don't. What have we, if anybody who comes forward with questions about speeding or concerns, what are we telling them? Like, are we giving them a process to follow, like file complaints or call the OPP? Like, what are we telling them? I just want to make sure the messaging we're currently giving.
Tanya.
Through you. So if someone, right now, the messaging is that we are encouraging community members to contact the OPP to report any speeding concerns. However, people do call the office as well. And if they do call the office, we do provide options for them. And that is reporting directly to the OPP, having us install the speed awareness board, and we discuss what the concern is. If the concern is, you know, issues around sight lines or brush or right, like we can talk to our different departments to support that complaint. But from a speeding standpoint, we can provide options like the speed awareness board, or the more people that call the OPP, the more they're aware of the complaint, which then would promote some enforcement in the area.
Thank you. And then my follow-up there was, this kind of goes in tandem with our discussion of emergency preparedness. And while we've offloaded some of our medical calls, I have firefighters go across my house in front of it weekly for calls. If there were speed bumps, it would take them twice as long to get there. So I'm not against it. I'm just trying to think if there's got to be alternatives that we can look like in other areas to learn from. And so I support this, and I think that's captured in the motion, but I just want to specify that I do think we should look at alternatives that are not happening here or happening locally, even internationally. I'm just trying to think of things that's going to be on my radar, but some of the old school solutions are not solutions these days with our given parameters. So, thank you.
Councillor Henry.
Thank you. Through your Mayor Senes. The number of calming tools that we have for mitigating traffic and its concerns are endless. Roma, there's, I don't know how many booths set up of different ways that we can, different tools that we can use to calm traffic measures. You keep saying something's on your radar. Photo radar used to, just some communities do have it. The rural areas, I don't know if I would put one up there because I don't know how long they would last. But you know, there's always something, there are alternatives.
All right, so we have this recommendation before us. Someone willing to move it? Councillor Koulis, seconded by Councillor Henry. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Any other new and unfinished business?
I have one item of new business, if I could.
Councillor Boyka.
This regards the policing of Lakefield, and I guess indirectly the policing of all of Selwyn Township. In response to a comment that Councillor Henry made in the budget meeting last week, I mentioned that I was on the police board of the village police board and on the village council at the time that the decision was made to join, and in that case, it really did amalgamate the Peterborough and Lakefield Police Department into one department. And we had three options, and it was keep our own department, have Peterborough police us in Lakefield, or go with the OPP. And it was interesting as I was ruminating about this over the weekend that the three factors that we considered way back in the 90s are still the factors that I think we should consider now, in that the policing contract for Lakefield is coming up this year. And what we looked at back then is I think what we should be looking at right now, if we are looking at should we extend that contract and continue to have Peterborough Police Lakefield, or should we go with OPP? There's two options now instead of three as there was then. And the three factors that we looked at is level of service, because the level of service in urban communities such as Lakefield is different than the need for the service of police in someplace like the rural areas of the township. So level of service will dictate the price. But even I learned in the 90s, and I think it might still be true, even with the level of service that is equal, the price is not always. And the third is governance. With respect to governance, we at the time in the 1990s had a place on the what was then Lakefield Peterborough Police Board, and we did, when the police separated, lost that spot at the table. I am the Lakefield liaison, but I can't vote. I'm there for most of the information, and I comment. I am asked to comment every month when I attend those meetings on any questions or anything I want to raise with respect to Lakefield, as is the mayor of Cavan, Monaghan, when he is able to comment, but again, not vote. Most of the, I don't want to call it important stuff, but most of the important stuff that happens, however, like budget, for example, happens in camera, and I'm not invited to stay, nor is the representative from Cav. So with respect to the OPP, Chairman Henry is Chairman Henry on the OPP. So what we have then is those three factors, service, price, and governance, and they're still the same. So my question, therefore, I think either to the mayor or to Janice or Angela, I don't know, is this is coming up this year. So do we now have a process through which this decision will be made? Stick with Peterborough, go to OPP. And in this process, could you tell me about council's involvement in this process? and the public's involvement in this process.
So I'm gonna pass it to Janice. I believe, I'll let you answer.
For sure. So ultimately, council will be the body that makes the decision in terms of who we enter a contract with. So at this point in time, I've already reached out to staff at the police service and at the city of Peterborough just to say, hey, our renewal date is coming up at the end of the year. Kind of letting them know I wanted to bring a report back to council, wanted to get a feeling from them where their board and council are at. Will the board consider a renewal or an extension? Will the city consider a renewal or extension? Are there things they think that need to be dealt with? So I've got that request for information out. I think I would hear back from them, kind of understand what your options truly are, and then bring that information forward to council, and council would give some direction in terms of how they want us to move forward. Negotiate just with the city. Do you want us to go out and get costings? I think from a staff perspective, we've been through this process a few times. I think we are served by two wonderful police services. They're different in the village as compared to the rural areas, but we have a high level of satisfaction with both services. So in terms of how things are working, I think they are working well. Certainly there is a higher cost in the village ward because of not just the cost of the service, but it's a smaller tax base to spread it over. So, but that isn't something that we hear concerns from the village residents and ratepayers about. So I think if you were anticipating considering a change to that, I think you would want to provide some opportunity for public feedback. Again, seeing as we aren't hearing any concerns, I think if you were just to move forward with the similar service, that you could still have a public consultation piece. I'm just not sure if it's as necessary as if you were going to contemplate some change. Sorry, that was long-winded. I hope that answered your question.
No, that is just fine. My question was long-winded. All my questions are long-winded. I confess. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. And the one thing that I want to reiterate too is that I am not hearing at all anyone unsatisfied with the service of police in Lakefield, nor am I hearing anyone unsatisfied with the OPP. So my question doesn't come from that. But I am saying is that there might possibly be the opportunity for cost savings, and I would hate to lose that opportunity by not asking the proper questions for the proper people. So I'll just leave it at that, I guess.
I think it's duly noted by staff, and we'll see how things progress. Deputy Mayor Black.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Boyko that there's no questions. We have two excellent police services. The difference really is, well, number one, they're different types of services, but it's not that one can't provide both services. In Cavan, they do both the rural, the city do both the rural and in places the OPP both do residential, urban, and so they're both capable of providing the service, I guess. So the two issues are obviously it's maybe time for a costing. I'm not sure if that was done on the last renewal or not. But costing, and then the other issue that Councillor Burke had brought up is governance. We don't have any control over the budget or any say in the budget in Lakefield. Whereas not that we have a lot of control over the OPP, but we do approve that budget. So, those are two real issues that I think we need to spend a little bit of time talking about and seeing whether we want to move forward with any kind of a formal process before we kind of agree to any contracts.
I think staff got the message. Councillor Henry.
Thank you through you, Mayor Sanas. Just to drag this out a little bit longer. Sorry for poking that bear. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I almost said it. Wanted to. Two, there's been an update to positions on the County Police Services Board. As much as I like being called the chair of it, I no longer am. Councillor John Braybrook from Trent Lakes is the chair. Deputy chair is Heather Watson from Douro Dummer, Mayor Heather Watson. So little news flash there, update for us. Three, originally when this was brought up last week, it was because we were talking a lot about money. And so I just, one of those things that popped in my head, which obviously I keep my mouth shut on and not do that to us. to echo Deputy Mayor Black and Councillor Boyko, level of service is huge. It's actually the reason that my wife and I chose to be here. Every little town in Ontario has a bridge, bunch of churches, a river. And for whatever reason, we were in Lakefield one day trying to figure out where we were gonna buy property, and the sun was setting. It was late September. We were down by the Baptist church. The trees were pretty. You could smell apple pie. Oh, really? You could. Tom McAllister was baking that day for where we were parked. Anyways, it was actually sitting there, and I noticed Peterborough Police walking up and down the main street, checking the doors of businesses. I hadn't seen that since 1973 or 4, growing up in Huntsville. And I stopped, I talked to him, I was like, "Are you really doing what I think you're doing?" And this was only 20 years ago or so. And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Any chance you're gonna check the back ones as well?" And he goes, "I go around, I check and make sure all the back doors are locked." And that's what sold us on the area. So yeah, moving forward, we do run the risk that Peterborough Police could say, "No, we're not fulfilling your contract." And that could be detrimental to us. But the level of service is huge. They still walk the beat. They frequent businesses downtown. It is very well done. So yeah, poking the bear, I was just looking at money, but there's many more things that we obviously have to consider, which a little off topic, but last week I did mention succession plan. And it was very nice that you reiterated it to me, how it was already written in the budget. And I think there might have been a counselor who will recall the moment there. My question was actually more so service, the mindset of people. There's more to filling our job descriptions than, just what the job calls for here. We have such a blend of Lakefield, rural. There's so many things here. And the person that comes in for anyone, whether it's police, future staff, they're going to have to be of a certain mindset for us. That's for sure. I don't know how HR is going to figure that one out. And I know that the rural folk definitely wouldn't want to see Peterborough Police rolling up. Just the way things are. Yeah.
Yes, so I'm gonna go to the dollar store and get a sponge. And my aim's not good, but I'm gonna have it available for the next time you bring up something like that. Yeah, just be ready. We have bylaws. Madam Clerk.
Yeah, thank you. Bylaw 7, it's to authorize the transfer payment agreement for the emergency preparedness grant. 8, to appoint the integrity commissioner, Tony Fleming, and 9, to adopt the new emergency management bylaw and repeal the old bylaw.
Have someone move those, please. Deputy Mayor Black, Councillor Henry, all in favor, that's carried. Confirming bylaw. Councillor Koulis, Councillor Boyko, all in favor, that is carried. Adjournment, Councillor Henry and Councillor Koulis, all in favor, that's carried. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.